What's going on, everyone? Mr. Octagonal here. Now, today we are back with the 3 Minutes on the Clock podcast. This is our ninth NFL mock draft, and it is the final one, as the NFL draft will be this week, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. I am super pumped for it. I'm going to be pushing out full grades for all 32 teams. Might have like a live stream reaction to who the Lions pick in the first round. Not entirely sure, but we'll see. We're going to have a very fun week. Very excited to see what happens in the NFL draft. And this mock draft is going to be 7 rounds. Yes, we're doing the whole thing. I've never done 7 rounds before, so I did not had any trades. Just because it's just too complicated. The most I've ever done is 4 rounds. So 7 rounds will be a lot, but I've put a lot of time into it, and I hope you all enjoy. The first pick, the Cardinals get Kyler Murray, quarterback, Oklahoma. Now, I've said it before, I'm not sold on the fact that Arizona wants Kyler Murray. I'm not going to be shocked if Arizona trades out of this pick and someone else drafts Kyler. But I do expect Kyler to go number 1, just not entirely sure which team it is. And since there's no trades here, I figured the most logical pick for Arizona is Kyler Murray. He definitely fits what Cliff Kingsbury is looking for. Definitely going to be a much more challenging quarterback to game plan for than Josh Rosen. And you'd rather take your shot on a quarterback who can be a superstar rather than stick it out with some average quarterback who you can trade for a first-round pick probably. Kyler Murray is definitely a boomer bust prospect, probably the most polarizing in this draft class. Obviously, he had the mobility, solid arm. He won the Heisman Trophy, but it's not like he played the greatest of competition, and obviously 5'10", certainly not going to make his life better with that height. Second pick, Niners get Nick Bosa, edge rusher, Ohio State. The next 4 picks are actually the same for my last mock, so I'll try to go through them quickly. As the Niners need a legit pass rusher, they did trade for Dee Ford, but he's only on a 1-year contract, and obviously Bosa has a higher ceiling than Ford. Pick 3, Jets get Josh Allen, edge rusher from Kentucky. Same thing, the Jets need a legit pass rusher. They have guys in the interior of their defensive line like Leonard Williams, Henry Anderson. They're solid pass rushers, but neither of them are going to get you double-digit sacks consistently. And that's something that Josh Allen can do. Phenomenal year this year at Kentucky. He's versatile. You can have him with his hand in the dirt, out of the dirt, in coverage. I really like his versatile skill set. Pick 4, Raiders get Quinnen Williams. Probably the best player on the board according to most people, as Williams has had an insane year at Alabama. I don't know if anyone in the country had more production than him this past season. The Raiders have talent at defensive tackle, but I think Quinnen Williams or Mo Hurst or I think P.J. Hall is the other one. I think one of them can easily move over to end. Pick 5, Devin White to the Bucs. They just lost Quan Alexander, and they need a new middle linebacker. And Devin White, so much production at LSU. I really want the Lions to get him, but with the Bucs needing a middle linebacker so badly, I just don't really see it happening, unfortunately. Pick 6, Ed Oliver to the New York Giants. I love Ed Oliver. I think he's the best player in this draft class, or at least he has the highest ceiling. And I think teams passing up on him, like at the 8, 9, 10, 11 range is going to be hard to do. And the Giants just see this talent, and they have to pull the trigger. Obviously, quarterback could be looked at. Dwayne Haskins, Drew Lock, even Daniel Jones. But Oliver has so much potential. And like the Raiders, the Giants do have a lot of talent at defensive tackle. Dalvin Tomlinson, B.J. Hill, R.J. McIntosh. But they could move some of those guys to end. I think Ed Oliver as well as Dalvin Tomlinson are both good enough and both versatile enough. It's just that both of them need to be better pass rushers. Pick 7, T.J. Hockenson to the Jaguars. I've had Jacksonville getting Hockenson a couple times. In my last mock, I had them getting Jawan Taylor, which I do think is definitely a possibility. But the Jaguars want to get Nick Foles, a legit number 1 target. He loved having Zach Ertz at tight end in Philadelphia. And Hockenson has such a good blend of receiving skills as well as blocking ability, which is why they're going to pick him over like Noah Fant. Fant isn't quite the blocker that Hockenson is. And then pick 8, Montez Sweat to the Detroit Lions. Sweat was phenomenal in the Senior Bowl, phenomenal in the Combine. He's very athletic, more production than people really give him credit for. And I think Montez Sweat and Trey Flowers can be very productive. Definitely can wreak havoc, those two, in the NFC North with Romeo Okwara as sort of a rotational edge rusher. And as a Lions fan, Montez Sweat probably wouldn't be my first choice, but I'd be happy with him. Pick number 9, the Bills are going to select DK Metcalf, wide receiver, Ole Miss. Metcalf gives Josh Allen a big body target. Obviously, Josh Allen isn't the most accurate, and it's good to have someone who has a nice jump ball radius. While Metcalf is not a great route runner, and obviously the red flags when it comes to injuries, numerous injuries throughout his college career. However, I would say there are definitely more freak injuries rather than him being injury prone. And I think he is the best offensive skill player by a mile in this draft class. And I think solid value here at 9 for Buffalo, getting themselves a legit number 1 receiver. Pick 10, the Denver Broncos have both Drew Lock and Dwayne Haskins fall to their lap. But John Elway just loves what Drew Lock brings to the table, as Lock is a very good passer, very solid arm, very accurate, more mobile than Dwayne Haskins. However, he's not the most consistent, and I don't think he is a super high ceiling. He did start all 4 years at Missouri, probably by far the most production out of any quarterback at least in this draft class, and I think this is a very solid pick for the Broncos. Pick 11, Dwayne Haskins, quarterback, Ohio State, to the Cincinnati Bengals. Haskins, like Locke, has a very good arm, but other than that, they do have some differences. Haskins is very immobile, not great outside of a pocket, and that could be a problem with the Bengals' bad offensive line, but they could start Andy Dalton this season, and I don't think Haskins has to be rushed in right away because Dalton is a serviceable enough starter. Haskins was more consistent this past year than Locke was throughout his 4-year career, but I don't really want to measure consistency with Locke having a 4-year period and Haskins having a 1-year period. I think Haskins has a higher ceiling than Drew Lock, but I think those two skill-wise are very close. Pick 12, Juwan Taylor of the Green Bay Packers. Not a pick I've seen a lot, but I do think it makes sense. Brian Bulaga is not getting any younger, and it's definitely good to start thinking of a replacement. You have David Bakhtiari at left tackle. He's solid, but at right tackle, Bulaga's not getting any younger. He can start for the next year or so, but afterwards, Juwan Taylor can hop in there. Taylor's probably my number 1 offensive lineman in this class. Haven't made my official draft board yet, but I will make it and upload it within the coming days. Taylor is very athletic, very good combine, lots of production at Florida, and I think this is a really good pick for the Packers, as much as I hate to say it. Pick 13, Andre Dillard, offensive tackle, Washington State, to the Miami Dolphins. Dillard is the best pass protector in this draft class. Really good Senior Bowl, really good combine, and he's definitely going to be helpful for whoever the Dolphins' long-term quarterback is. Obviously, Daniel Jones is on the board, but I don't see them pulling the trigger. Pick 1... Did I say pick 114? I meant pick 14, sorry. Rashawn Gary to the Atlanta Falcons. I'm very intrigued by this fit, as the Falcons do have a few holes on their D-line. D-tackle, they could use an extra Grady Jarrett, and they don't really have another starter next to him, and Jarrett will be a free agent at the end of the year anyway. And then at edge rusher, they have Takk McKinley, who I like, but they also have Vic Beasley, who is also a free agent and has been extremely inconsistent throughout his career. I view Gary more of it, and is... Let me start over. I view Gary more as an edge rusher rather than someone inside, but I think Vic Beasley has the size to move over to linebacker, or Vic Beasley could start this year, trade him, or let him go, and then Rashawn Gary can hop in, or Gary, I think, is definitely versatile enough to play D-tackle. Pick 15, Marquise Hollywood Brown of the Washington Redskins. Once again, quarterback could be in play with this selection. They could look to acquire Josh Rosen. They could trade up. I wouldn't be surprised if they move up with like the New York Jets or something, who are looking to trade down, but since there's no trades, that can't happen. And Hollywood Brown is definitely someone who can stretch the field extremely fast and has definitely given opportunities for Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray with the coverage game planning around Marquise Brown. With his deep threat speed down the field, definitely made opposing defenses work, and I think he can do that in the NFL. They lost Jamison Crowder. They have Paul Richardson, who can also stretch the field, and I think that could be good, especially considering I have them getting a strong arm quarterback in the third round, so stay tuned for that. And they could always look to draft one next year. And then pick 16, Brian Burns to the Panthers, another duplicate pick from my last mock. They need edge rushers. It's that simple. I don't really need to go into much detail other than that. Burns is a very well-rounded player, good combine, and I think this is a really nice pick for Carolina. Pick 17, Daniel Jones, quarterback, Duke, to the New York Giants. From what I hear with rumors, it sounds like the Giants are very interested in Daniel Jones and could consider him at 6 over someone like Dwayne Haskins. I do think Jones is the 4th best quarterback in this class. I don't think he's better than any of the 3 guys who have already been picked. But Jones, not quite as well known, not quite as experienced as those other 3 guys, but he's shown a ton of flashes this season, and really with him it's just flashes. Need to see more consistency. Not a great combine, so he's definitely a question mark in my book, and definitely someone who I'm not sold on. Pick 18, Jonah Williams to the Minnesota Vikings. They need offensive linemen. Williams can play tackle as well as guard, and the Vikings need both tackle and guard, so you can just put him whichever one he fits best at in the next level. Pick 19, Christian Wilkins, defensive tackle, Clemson, to the Tennessee Titans, as they spent a lot of money on offense in free agency, getting guys like Adam Humphries and Roger Saffold, acquiring Ryan Tannehill. So now it's time for them to focus on defense. Edge rusher could be a pick, like Clelin Ferrell. However, they could use someone inside. Jarrell Casey, who's sort of like a hybrid edge rusher inside defensive tackle, not getting any younger, and Christian Wilkins has had a phenomenal career at Clemson. Lots of production, phenomenal against the run and the pass, and I think this is a really nice pick for Tennessee. Pick 20, Devin Bush, linebacker, Michigan, to the Steelers. I do think Bush is somewhat raw, but he had a phenomenal combine, great leader on the field, and I think this is a nice pick for the Steelers, getting their Ryan Shazier replacement. Pick 21, Clelin Ferrell, edge rusher, Clemson, to the Seattle Seahawks. Their really only somewhat decent edge rusher is Frank Clark, who is actually really good. I think he wrapped up like 13 or 14 sacks this past season. He's only on a 1-year deal, which is the franchise tag. Obviously, the Seahawks have to retain him, but they need someone across from him, and I think that can be Ferrell. He's had a very solid career at Clemson. He does not have a crazy ceiling, but I definitely don't see him being a bust. Pick 22, Greedy Williams, cornerback, LSU to the Ravens. The cornerback does not seem like a big need for Baltimore. They have Marlon Humphrey, who's great. They have Tavon Young in the nickel. But my question is, who else do you have on the outside? Yeah, you got guys like Brandon Carr, Jimmy Smith, who are both solid, but they're not getting any younger. And Greedy Williams is a very good value pick here as well. 22 is a steal, long, lean, athletic corner, good ball skills. And the values here, while it's not the biggest position of need for Baltimore and they don't have a second-round pick, I just think value speaks and they have to make this move. Williams and Marlon Humphrey is going to be deadly on the outside, and then Tavon Young, who's injury-prone in the slot, so he might not even work out either. And, of course, they always have guys like Jimmy Smith, Brandon Carr, who can be good mentors. Pick 23, Cody Ford, offensive lineman, Oklahoma, to the Houston Texans. Ford can play tackle and guard, sort of like the Vikings. The Texans could use both, as Ford mainly played right tackle. Definitely a big part of why Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray have been so good the past 2 seasons. He's agile, he's good against the run, he's good run and pass blocking, and all around he's a very talented player. Pick 24, Noah Fant, tight end, Iowa, to the Oakland Raiders. Obviously, they need to focus on defense. However, I think this is really good value. Fant reminds me a lot, sort of like an Evan Engram, a David Njoku in a way. All 3 of them are extremely athletic, great receiving skills, but not great blocking-wise. Obviously, Engram is built more like a receiver, and I wouldn't say Fant is necessarily built like a receiver, but he is a phenomenal receiving tight end. Definitely needs to work on his blocking, which is his biggest weakness, but I'm a huge fan of his upside, and I really like the prospect that Oakland is getting here. Pick 25, this has to be one of my favorite picks in this draft. Nasir Adderley, safety out of Delaware to the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles picking a Philadelphia native in Adderley, who is my number one safety in this class by a pretty big margin. I really like his skill set. Very athletic, very rangy safety. Really like his ceiling. The Eagles are not great at safety. Rodney McLeod, he's had some injuries still the past couple years. Malcolm Jenkins, he's one of the best in the business, but he's a strong safety, so he doesn't really play the position that Adderley does. I think Adderley can play both spots, but I view him more as a 3 safety. Jenkins is great, but he's not getting any younger anyway. Pick 26, N'Keal Harry, wide receiver out of Arizona State to the Colts. In my last mock, I had the Colts trading up for him. Now here, they don't have to trade up for him, as Harry, not the most explosive, not the most athletic, doesn't have a crazy ceiling, but is a good route runner, good short pass guy. They already have that deep threat in T.Y. Hilton to stretch the field. That'll create more opportunities for N'Keal Harry to create separation, and I think this is a nice pick for Indianapolis. Pick 27, Josh Jacobs, running back Alabama, to the Oakland Raiders. They need to focus on defense, but they have a pretty big hole at running back, and they have an early second-round pick where they can address defense. Most likely edge rusher, hint, hint. Jacobs is probably the best running back in this draft class. Not the most carries at Alabama, but when he had the football, he was electric. Very well-rounded player, and I think this is a solid pick for Oakland. All they really have right now is Marshawn Lynch, who probably going to retire within the next couple days. Okay, that's sort of exaggerating, but Lynch does not have that much time left in the league. And then Doug Martin. He's Doug Martin. What else do I have to say about him? One good year and then flops, and I don't see him having a good year in Oakland. So they need to get themselves a running back. And I've had them getting Jacobs in the second round, my past couple mocks, but it's definitely not for sure that he will be available in round 2. Pick 28, Garrett Bradbury, center, NC State to the Chargers. They could use maybe another tackle more than center. However, I think they could use interior offensive line, mainly center, as they have Forrest Lamp and Dan Feeney, who they drafted the past couple years in 2017. I think both of them are solid, but they need a center. Bradbury's stock has been flying since his very good combine, and I definitely see him being a first-round pick. Pick 29, Byron Murphy, cornerback, Washington to the Chiefs. Last time I had them trading up for Greedy Williams, so better value technically since they don't have to move up 10 picks and give up a second-round pick. Byron Murphy isn't quite the player that Greedy Williams is, but Murphy is still very good in his own right. Very instinctive player, very hard worker, lots of production with the Huskies, and I think this is a nice pick for KC. Pick 30, Hakeem Butler, wide receiver, Iowa State to the Packers. I've seen them drafting quarterbacks at this spot. I just don't think it's going to happen. Butler is sort of a poor man's DK Metcalf, giant frame, nice jump ball radius. Both have nice 40-yard dashes, and I think this is a nice pick for Green Bay since they can't get Metcalf at 12, which could be a possibility. Pick 31, DeAndre Baker, cornerback, Georgia to the Rams. Thorpe had a phenomenal year at Georgia, winning the Jim Thorpe Award. Not the biggest, not the most athletic. I don't think he is the craziest ceiling, but I do think this is a nice pick for the Rams. I've had them getting DeAndre Baker numerous times. Marcus Peters is an overrated player. Aqib Talib, off-the-field stuff, plus he's not getting any younger. And then pick 32, Irv Smith, tight end Alabama to the Patriots. Smith is a very well-rounded player, good receiver, good blocker. They need a replacement for Rob Gronkowski, and I think it can be Mr. Smith. We are now in the second round, starting with Arizona, and they're going to get a weapon for Kyler Murray and A.J. Brown, a wide receiver from Ole Miss. Sort of like N'Keal Harry, Brown isn't the fastest. He doesn't have the craziest ceiling, but he's a very good route runner, and he has a really nice floor, so chances are he will not be a bust. But I just don't see him developing into, per se, a superstar. I think he is a tad bit better of a prospect than N'Keal Harry. The more and more I think about it, I just think he has a little bit more athleticism, and I think that's the big difference. Not that Brown is a super athlete like, per se, DK Metcalf. Pick 34, Zach Allen, edge rusher, Boston College to the Colts. The Colts have some talented players in their front seven. Obviously, they have Darius Leonard, who was excellent last year, but he's not really an edge rusher. And then their edge rushers consist of Jabal Sheard and Kamoko Toure, I would say, are the main two, so they could use another one to Toure was solid as a rookie, and Jabal Sheard, good player, not getting any younger. So Allen doesn't need to necessarily be the main guy right away. He can be more of a rotation player. And if they let Jabal Sheard go in the next couple of years, Allen could step in. Pick 35, Chase Winovich, edge rusher, Michigan, to the Raiders. In the first round, they did not use a single pick on an edge rusher. Yes, Quentin Williams can get to the quarterback, but they need a legit edge rusher. They racked up 13 sacks as a team last year. I'm pretty sure Khalil Mack on his own got awfully close, if not more than that. So they're going to go with Winovich, who has some very nice hair. Pick 36, Amani Oruwariye, I think that's actually how you say it. I've been saying Oruwariye this whole time, but I actually think it's Oruwariye. Cornerback from Penn State. He's a little bit older than everyone in his class, 23, as he is a redshirt senior. Physical press corner. I think he's a really talented player, and I think this is a nice pick for San Francisco. Pick 37, Dalton Risner, offensive lineman, Penn State, to the Giants. Risner is very versatile. He can play anywhere on the line, and the Giants' offensive line is a train wreck, so they need all the help they can get. Pick 38, Greg Little, offensive tackle from Ole Miss. The Jaguars' offensive line is really one piece away. They need a right tackle. While I would think Little is more of a left tackle, you could always move him or Cam Robinson to the right side. I think both of them are talented enough to do it. And then other than that, I mean, they have Andrew Norwell, Brandon Linder, and A.J. Cann. That's a pretty good old line for Nick Foles. Pick 39, Jerry Tillery, D-tackle, Notre Dame, to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Gerald McCoy, there have been a lot of trade rumors around him, and he's not getting any younger. While immediately defensive tackle might not be a big need, they are probably not going to be very good next year, and they may want a higher pick, so Tillery doesn't have to be great right away. Pick 40, Jeffrey Simmons, D-tackle, Mississippi State, to the Bills. Simmons has a crazy high ceiling, but he does come with some red flags. He tore his ACL probably about a month or two ago, and probably will not make a big impact this season. Plus, he has off-the-field stuff, but other than that, the Bills are getting themselves a top 10 talent in Jeffrey Simmons, someone who has a crazy good ceiling, someone who has insane potential, and I think this is a very interesting draft for the Bills so far. Metcalf and Simmons both have very low floors, but very high ceilings. If you're wondering why I'm sounding different from round 1 to round 2, it's because I recorded round 1 yesterday and I'm a little bit still tired this morning. Anyway, pick 41, Chris Lindstrom, guard, Boston College, to the Denver Broncos. They do have some holes in the interior of their offensive line, losing guys like Billy Turner and Matt Paradis. They had Billy Turner, right? Yeah, I think so. So they do have some holes there, and they definitely need to get themselves a good offensive line for Phillip Lindsay or whoever they're going to play at quarterback this year, whether it's Joe Flacco or Drew Lock, or if they draft someone totally different and I'm totally off. Pick 42, Deebo Samuel, wide receiver, South Carolina, to the Bengals. Sort of like N'Keal Harry and A.J. Brown. Samuel doesn't have a crazy ceiling, but he's a good route runner and someone who can produce immediately. He's not going to be crazy good, but he can be a nice slot piece with guys like A.J. Green and Tyler Boyd on the outside, and I guess if John Ross develops, which I doubt. Pick 43, Elgton Jenkins, center, Mississippi State, to the Lions, as Elgton Jenkins can play center as well as guard. I assume he'd slide over to right guard since Graham Glasgow is the center, and then Frank Ragnow is the left guard. All three of those guys can play center. Interesting. But I think this is a nice pick for my Lions. I think the value is there, and the Lions could go offensive line sooner than most people think. Pick 44, Jonathan Abram, safety, Mississippi State, to the Green Bay Packers. Abram is an old-school safety, a hard hitter, definitely someone who would thrive in the 1980s, 1970s, but I think he can still thrive in this era. Josh Jones was a flop, and they need someone across Adrian Amos, who they signed to what I think was a pretty nice contract. Pick 45, Eric McCoy, center, from Texas A&M to the Falcons. McCoy is very athletic. He can play guard as well as center. Alex Mack is the Falcons center currently, and while he is very good, he's also pretty old, and they could use some guards anyway. Pick 46, Rock Ya-Sin, cornerback, Temple, to the Redskins. Good press cornerback. I think they could use extra depth there. Josh Norman I don't know how much longer the Redskins are going to keep him around. Fabian Moreau, meh. And they just have a bunch of other meh players, so I do think they need another corner. Pick 47, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, defensive back, Florida, to the Carolina Panthers. Gardner-Johnson can play pretty much anywhere in the secondary. Yeah, he's not a super athlete. He doesn't have a crazy ceiling, but he does have some really nice production throughout his career at Florida, whether that's at corner or safety. He played safety last year. I assume that's where he's more likely to play in the next level, and I think Carolina can definitely use him in a good way. Pick 48, Dexter Lawrence, defensive tackle, Clemson to the Dolphins. Great value here in the second round. Dexter Lawrence, to me, is a late first, early second round prospect, and for him to fall to 48, the Dolphins are absolutely going to pull the trigger. They have Devon Gottschall at D-tackle, who I really like, but they could use another one. Lawrence is a big, physical football player, good run stuffer, very athletic for his size, and I think this has been a phenomenal draft so far for Miami. With the 49th pick, the Cleveland Browns select Taylor Rapp, safety from Washington. The Browns lost Jabril Peppers and have a decent amount of holes in their secondary. They have Denzel Ward at corner, who's great, but outside of that, I mean, they got guys like Jamar Taylor, Brian Body Calhoun. It's not great. They also cut Derek Kindred, who's a starting level safety, so they really need to get a safety early, and I think that can be Taylor Rapp, who is definitely the best one on the board. Pick 50, Lonnie Johnson, cornerback, Kentucky to the Minnesota Vikings. Obviously, we know O-line's a need for them. They could use defensive line as well, but Mike Zimmer is obsessed with drafting cornerbacks. Xavier Rhodes has had his name in trade rumors, and I think where the Vikings are in cap, they may need to look to trade him. Trey Waynes has also been in trade rumors, so there are some question marks for them at corner. They have Mike Hughes, who I think had an underrated season before he got hurt. They also have Mackenzie Alexander, who that pick doesn't look like a great one, but Lonnie Johnson is a tall, physical corner, and I think this is a nice pick for Minnesota. Pick 51, Jalen Ferguson, edge rusher, Louisiana Tech, to the Pittsburgh Steelers. The production is absolutely there. Ferguson has been an insanely good pass rusher for Louisiana Tech. I think this is a really nice value pick for Tennessee. Pick 52, Justin Lane, cornerback, Mississippi State. From Michigan State, to the Pittsburgh Steelers. They do need some corners. They signed Steven Nelson, who's okay. They have Mike Hughes, who's okay. And they have Artie Burns, who has shown flashes at times. Last year he was not great. So they do need an extra corner. Lane has definitely risen up draft boards this offseason. He had a nice combine. I think this is a good pick for Pittsburgh. Pick 53, Paris Campbell, wide receiver, Ohio State, to the Eagles. Speed kills, baby. 4.31, 40-yard dash. Yeah, wide receiver isn't the biggest of Philadelphia's needs, but they have another pick coming up very soon, pick 57. And Campbell has a very nice ceiling. They have Alshon Jeffrey, who's solid, but they let Golden Tate go. And there have been trade rumors with Nelson Aguilar, so I do think they could use an extra receiver, and Campbell can definitely stretch the field. Pick 54, Trayvon Mullen, corner, Clemson, to the Houston Texans. They lost Kareem Jackson. They lost the Honey Badger. They lost Andre Hall in their secondary this offseason. And all they really have is Jonathan... What's his face? Jonathan Joseph. I don't know why it took me that long to figure his name. Jonathan Joseph at corner, Justin Reed at safety. So they need extra help in the secondary. Mullen had a really good playoff, and I think this is a good pick for the Texans. And then they have the very next pick, Caleb McGarry, offensive tackle, Washington. He can play guard as well. I do view him more as a tackle. However, I do like his overall versatility and his skill set. Pick 56, Andy Isabella, wide receiver, UMass to the Patriots. Speed kills, baby, 4.3, 140, just like Campbell, as Andy Isabella can stretch the field for New England. This is a Bill Belichick type pick. I've had Isabella mocked to the Patriots a bunch of times. I just think it makes total sense for both New England and Isabella. Now at the rear end of round 2, Eagles get Mack Wilson, linebacker, Alabama. I don't think Wilson is the craziest ceiling, but they did just lose Jordan Hicks, and he does have a nice floor. Solid overall in coverage. Pick 58, Juan Thornhill, safety, Virginia, to the Cowboys. He can play safety, he can play corner. He's very versatile and extremely athletic. One of my favorite players in this draft class. The Cowboys have Byron Jones, who can also play corner and safety, and also has a crazy vertical jump. They have Chidobe Awuzie, who's a solid corner, but outside of that, their secondary does have a few holes. Colts get Draymond Jones, D-tackle, Ohio State. The Colts could use an extra D-tackle. They have Tyquan Lewis, who's okay. Danico Autry's okay. I assume Draymond Jones will be the pick at 60 here for the Chargers, but since he's off the board, they have to take a little bit of a reach in Kalen Saunders, D-tackle, Western Illinois. Saunders has had some very nice production with the Western Illinois Leathernecks. Pick 61, LJ Collier, edge rusher, TCU to the Chiefs. They need edge rushing. They cut Justin Houston. They traded D Ford, and all they have is Chris Jones, who's on the last year of his contract. Kelvin Harmon, wide receiver, NC State to the Saints. Yeah, New Orleans knows how to find random receivers and turn them into average players, but at the same time, remember when they drafted Michael Thomas? Look how that pick worked out in the late second round. Thomas is now a top 5 wide receiver in the league, and if Kelvin Harmon can be a top receiver as well, then that could be a phenomenal selection for the Saints. Sort of like Michael Thomas, Harmon, pretty big frame, solid in a red zone, very solid pick for New Orleans. Yeah, it's not the biggest of needs, but finding wide receivers off the streets doesn't always work. Chiefs get Michael Dieter, offensive lineman, Wisconsin. He can play center, he can play guard, he can play tackle. I assume he'd play center or left guard. Their tackle spots are solid. Their right guard spot is solid with Dr. Laurent Duvernay-Tardif. And then pick 64, Darnell Savage, safety, Maryland. Patriots love having multiple good safeties. And Devin McCourty, Duron Harmon, and Patrick Chung are all not getting any younger. Savage had a really good combine, very athletic. Doesn't need to have a crazy role right away, but I think he has nice potential. Now on to round 3, starting with the Cardinals. They go with Charles Omenihu, defensive tackle from Texas. They could use someone in the interior of their defensive line to wreak havoc. Obviously, they could look at Quinnen Williams, number 1. And if Kyler Murray isn't the pick, I wouldn't be shocked if it is Quinnen. Pick 66, Terry McLaurin, wide receiver, Ohio State to the Steelers. I think McLaurin is extremely underrated as he has solid size. He's a good athlete, very fast, can stretch the field for the Steelers. I think him, Juju, and James Washington could be a really nice receiving core. Pick 67, Deontay Thompson, safety, Alabama to the 49ers. Thompson has had a really good year of Alabama, pretty much until the end, and that's why his stock has really dropped. Did not participate in the combine due to an injury. I don't think his stock should drop this low. I do think he's a second-round prospect, and I think value-wise this is a good pick for the 49ers. Pick 68, Julian Love, cornerback, Notre Dame to the New York Jets. They could use help at corner. All they really have is Tremaine Johnson, who's a meh player at best. Pick 69, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, wide receiver, Stanford to the Jaguars. Jacksonville really focusing on offense in this draft as J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, good reliable receiver, good route runner, good hands, and someone who Nick Foles can trust. Pick 70, Jachai Polite, edge rusher from Florida. Sort of like Deontay Thompson, his stock has definitely taken a dip since the season. Bad combine, bad interviews, bad pro day, and he's only had 1 year of great production, but it was a great year from Polite, who I think is second-round talent still. Pick 71, Kahale Warring, tight end, San Diego State to the Broncos. They want to get themselves a good tight end for Drew Lock. They don't have that right now, and Kahale Warring can definitely be that. Pick 72, Blake Cashman, linebacker, Minnesota to the Bengals. Their linebacking core is atrocious. They finally cut ties with Vontaze Burfict, but they really need to get linebackers. They didn't get one in round 2. They didn't get one in round 1, so they need to here in round 3. Pick 73, Ben Banogu, edge rusher TCU to the Patriots. The Patriots love stockpiling on pass rushers. They have a number of talented ones, but they did just lose Trey Flowers, remember, so they do need to focus on getting good edge rushers. Pick 74, Jace Sternberger, tight end, Texas A&M to the Bills. They cut Charles Clay, and they need a new tight end for Josh Allen. They got him a weapon in DK Metcalf, so why not get another one? Pick 75, Josh Oliver, tight end, San Jose State to the Green Bay Packers. Oliver is a very talented player. They could look at someone like Noah Fant in the first round, or even Irv Smith with their second first-round pick. However, they're going to go with Oliver here. The Jimmy Graham move didn't really pan out, or at least has not panned out so far. Pick 76, one of my favorite selections in this draft, Tyree Jackson, quarterback, Buffalo to the Washington Redskins. Tyree Jackson reminds me a lot of Josh Allen, who I really liked coming out of Wyoming, as Tyree Jackson, huge frame, really strong arm, not the most accurate right now, and he is still somewhat raw, which is fine because they can start Case Keenum, but sure enough, the Redskins quarterbacks very well could get injured, and Tyree Jackson could get a starting job in like week 10 and then get hurt in like week 13. Pick 7, Drew Samia, offensive lineman, Oklahoma to the Panthers. I've seen a lot of mock drafts of having the Panthers getting an offensive lineman earlier. I don't think they should. I think defense is a much bigger need for them. However, they do have a couple holes on their O-line. Actually, they really only have one, which is left guard. They have Taylor Moton, who I really like. They brought back Darrell Williams. They signed Matt Paradis, and they have Trey Turner. So they just need one more, and that can be Drew Samia, who can slide into left guard. Pick 78, Isaiah Johnson, cornerback, Houston, to the Miami Dolphins. There have been trade rumors involving Xavier Howard, and other than that, they don't really have much at corner. Pick 79, Joejuan Williams, cornerback, Vanderbilt, to the Falcons. They let Robert Alford go. They let Brian Poole go. And Desmond Trufant, it's a challenge for him to play all 16 games. He's very injury-prone. Williams is a very tall corner. Did not have a great combine, but he's very long, very physical. I think this is a nice pick for the Falcons. Then pick 80, Yadni Kajuste, offensive tackle, West Virginia, to the Browns. They could use some offensive tackles. Yeah, Joel Bitonio can play tackle, but you might as well just draft one. And I would say they have holes at both tackle spots. Desmond Harrison, meh. Chris Hubbard, meh. So they do need another tackle, and that can be Kajuste, who's been very solid with the West Virginia Mountaineers. Pick 81, Connor McGovern, offensive guard, Penn State, to the Minnesota Vikings. They need help on their O-line. They drafted Jonah Williams, but they need to get another one, and that can be McGovern. Pick 82, Ben Powers, offensive lineman, Oklahoma, to the Tennessee Titans. They need help in the interior of their offensive line. They let Quentin Spain go, and their interior O-line is not great. Pick 83, Dax Raymond, tight end, Utah State, to the Steelers. They lost Jesse James to my Lions. They have Vance McDonald, who's okay, but they could use another tight end. Pick 84, Ross Pierschbacher, offensive lineman, Alabama, to the Seattle Seahawks. They need O-line, as obviously Russell Wilson did just sign a big extension. Russell Wilson does not need a great offensive line, but if Russell Wilson has a great offensive line, he can be even better. Pick 85, Riley Ridley, wide receiver, Georgia, to the Ravens. The Ravens absolutely need wide receivers. Ridley does not have a crazy ceiling. It was not amazing in the combine, but he's a great route runner. And if Lamar Jackson can improve his accuracy, then Ridley will be a phenomenal weapon. Pick 86, Miles Sanders, running back, Penn State, to the Texans. Sanders had a really good combine, and I am quite high on him. Lamar Miller is solid, but they could use a compliment. Deontay Foreman didn't really work out. Pick 87, David Long, cornerback, Michigan. And then pick 88, Jamel Dean, cornerback, Auburn, to the Bears and Lions, respectively. I'm sort of tying them in together because both of them have really had their stocks rise after good combines, good 40-yard dashes. And I think they can be solid picks for those two NFC North teams who are in need of corners. As the Lions, they signed Justin Coleman, but they could use an extra. And then the Bears lost Bryce Callahan, which I think they should have brought him back. I don't know why they let him go. So they do need an extra corner as well. Pick 97, Ronell Wren, defensive tackle, Arizona State, to the New England Patriots. They lost Malcolm Brown in the offseason. I'm pretty sure Danny Shelton will be a free agent next offseason. So they need to think about defensive tackle replacements. Pick 98, O'Shane Jamiez. I think that's how you say it. I'm probably still butchering it. I need to know how to say his name for the draft grades. I assume I'll find out this weekend. Edge rusher, Old Dominion, to the Jaguars. They could use some more pass rushers. Their defensive line is solid, but Calais Campbell's not getting any younger. And Yannick Ngakoue, who I absolutely love, is on the last year of his contract. Jacksonville needs to re-sign that man. Pick 99, Joe Jackson, edge rusher to Miami, to the Rams. As I said, I don't think Dante Fowler Jr. is part of their plans. He's more of an edge rusher than a linebacker, but he lines as a linebacker, so that's why I tied him in there when I was talking about their Voshon Joseph pick. Jackson can get to the quarterback, and That's what you look for in an edge rusher, someone who can rush the passer, and Jackson did that with the Hurricanes. Pick 100, Dawson Knox, tight end, Ole Miss, to the Panthers. They need tight end, as Greg Olsen is injury prone and he's not getting any younger, so they have to get a new tight end. Knox can be good depth early on and can be the long-term guy in the future. Pick 101, Will Grier, quarterback, West Virginia, to the Patriots. We all know Tom Brady's not getting any younger. He's 41 or 42 by now. And I do think he showed small signs of regression last year. He wasn't the same player that he was the year before. Yeah, he was still great, but I think there was something missing. He just wasn't that best quarterback in the league. Was never in the MVP conversation. I'm not huge on Grier, but I've grown on him a little bit in the offseason. Wonky throwing motion, but he does have a good arm, and he is mobile enough. Pick 102, Christian Miller, edge rusher, Alabama, to Baltimore. They lost to Darius Smith. They lost Terrell Suggs. They need someone who can rush the passer. So now for the rest of the draft, I'm not really going to go into that much detail about all the picks. Only the really interesting ones, because I'm not trying to upload a 2-hour video. I know iMovie will not be too thrilled with that. So pick 103, David Edwards, offensive tackle, Wisconsin to Arizona. Niners select Mecole Hardman, wide receiver, Georgia. Jets get Darius Slayton, wide receiver, Auburn. Slayton's a deep threat, can stretch the field very fast. Drew Tranquill, linebacker, Notre Dame to the Raiders. Justice Hill, running back, Oklahoma State to the Bucks. Hill had a phenomenal combine, as he's very quick, very athletic, and I think they could use a compliment for Ronald Jones or Peyton Barber, whoever their main running back is going to be next year. Anthony Nelson, edge rusher, Iowa to the Giants. Damian Harris, running back, Alabama to the Jaguars. Really nice value. TJ Yeldon's gone. Leonard Fournette has huge maturity question marks, so they could use another running back. And then pick 110, Chuma Edoga, offensive tackle, USC, to the Bengals. The Lions select Preston Smith, wide receiver, Colorado State. We've seen Colorado State receivers be very nice value picks the past couple years. Guys like Rashard Higgins and Michael Gallup. I think Williams can be that as well. Pick 112, Bobby Evans, offensive tackle, Oklahoma to the Bills. Ravens select Joe Giles Harris, linebacker, Duke. Packers select Bobby Okereke, linebacker from Stanford. Panthers select Max Crosby, edge rusher, Eastern Michigan. Dolphins select Jarrett Stidham, quarterback, Auburn. Stidham's had some very nice production with Auburn, and I believe he came from Baylor as a transfer. Obviously, quarterback's a need for the Dolphins. Can he be that long-term guy where they don't need to worry about getting someone next year? Picks 117, Tristan Hill, D-tackle, UCF to Atlanta, and then the Packers select Gerald Willis III, defensive tackle, Miami. Pick 119, Chris Boyd, cornerback, Texas to the Browns. Vikings select Isaac Nautua, tight end, Georgia. Titans select Antoine Wesley, wide receiver, Texas Tech. Steelers select Justin Hollins, edge rusher, Oregon, go Ducks. Ravens select Daniel Wise, defensive tackle, Kansas, Rock Chalk Jayhawk. Picked 124, Stanley Morgan, wide receiver, Nebraska to Seattle. Broncos get Dylan Mitchell, wide receiver, Oregon, go Ducks. And then the Bears select Elijah Holyfield, running back, Georgia. Holyfield is a very powerful runner, sort of like Jordan Howard was. Obviously, straight line speed is not Holyfield's expertise. He ran around a 4.8 40-yard dash, which is not great, but he can be a solid complement for Tariq Cohen. Pick 127, Darrell Henderson, running back, Memphis to the Eagles. Henderson is not the biggest in frame, but he's a flashy runner and can sort of replace Darren Sproles, whose bones are made of glass. Pick 128, Miles Boykin, wide receiver, Notre Dame to the Cowboys. Colts select Michael Jackson, cornerback, Miami. Definitely not the year to be a draft prospect by the name of Michael Jackson, am I right? Chargers get Max Sharping, offensive tackle, Northern Illinois. Bills get Ronnie Anderson, running back, Oklahoma. Anderson has had a great career with Oklahoma. He did suffer a big injury right at the beginning of the year, and that's why his stock really has dropped. I think he's a second-round talent, and the Bills could use a new long-term running back. David Sills V, wide receiver, West Virginia to the Giants. Lots of production with West Virginia and Will Grier. Maybe he can have the same... he probably won't have the same production in the NFL, but can he at least replicate some of that in the league? Pick 133, Ryquell Armstead, running back, Temple to the Rams. And then the Patriots select Sion Takitaki, linebacker, BYU. Colts select Travion Williams, running back, Texas A&M. Cowboys get Daylon Mack, defensive tackle, Texas A&M. Falcons get Myles Gaskin, running back, Nebraska. Gaskin has had a great career with the Huskies. The Falcons have Devontae Freeman, who's a little bit injury-prone, and they also have Ito Smith, who's solid, but, I mean, at this point in the draft, you're pretty much looking for depth. Pick 138, Will Harris, safety, Boston College, to the Eagles. Now on to round 5, Cardinals get Devin Singletary, running back, FAU. I think this is a very interesting pick, as Singletary, not the biggest in frame, but he had a ton of production with the Owls. Doesn't hurt to get another running back alongside David Johnson. Raiders get Ugochukwu Amadi, safety, Oregon, go Ducks. Steelers get Karan Higdon, running back, Michigan. Giants get Gary Jennings, wide receiver, West Virginia. Giants get Marquise Blair, wide receiver, or safety, Utah. Browns get Nate Davis, offensive lineman, Charlotte. Bucks get Jaquan Johnson, safety, Miami. I really like the value of this selection. Sort of like Jonathan Abram. Johnson is an old-school, hard-hitting, run-support safety. And then the Lions get Elias Mack, tight end, Notre Dame. Pick 147, Sutton Smith, edge rusher, Northern Illinois, to the Bills. Broncos get Mike Bell, safety, Fresno State. Bengals get Tavon Coney, linebacker, Notre Dame. Packers get Bo Benschweisel, offensive lineman, Wisconsin. The Dolphins get Anthony Johnson, wide receiver, Buffalo. Big-bodied receiver, great in the red zone. He was phenomenal with Tyree Jackson and the Buffalo Bulls, and now he can with the Dolphins. And they'll play the Buffalo Bills twice a year, so I guess that's kind of funny. Jelani Tavai, linebacker out of Hawaii, to the Atlanta Falcons. Caden Smith, tight end, Stanford, to the Redskins. And then the Panthers get Terry Godwin, wide receiver, Georgia. Browns get Divine Ozigbo, running back, Nebraska. Broncos get Corey Ballantyne, cornerback, Washburn. Titans select Javon Patterson, offensive lineman, Ole Miss. Bills get Brett Ripien, quarterback, Boise State. Seahawks get Zedrick Woods, safety, Ole Miss. Ravens select DeMarcus Lodge, wide receiver, Ole Miss. Sort of like DK Metcalf, his college teammate. Lodge is a big-bodied receiver, and he can be very beneficial for Lamar Jackson. I think this is a nice value selection. Trayvon Wesco, tight end, West Virginia, to the Texans. And then the Bears select Kingsley Keke, defensive tackle, Texas A&M. Pick 163, Dennis Daly, offensive tackle, South Carolina, to the Eagles. Colts get Cody Thompson, wide receiver, Toledo. Cowboys get Mark Fields, cornerback, Clemson. Chargers select Jermaine Pratt, linebacker, NC State. Chiefs get Hunter Renfrow, wide receiver, Clemson. Obviously not the biggest, but lots of production. Game-winning touchdown in the national championship a couple years ago. Seems like he's been in college for about 45 years now, so he's definitely not the youngest, but definitely one of the most interesting players in this draft class. Mike Edwards, safety, Kentucky, to the Saints. Trey Watson, linebacker, Maryland, former Illinois player, to the Rams. And then David Long, linebacker, West Virginia, to the Browns. 171 is Phil Haynes, offensive lineman, Wake Forest. Pick 172 is Michael Jordan, offensive guard from Ohio State. I think this is solid value. Jordan was a very solid player with the Buckeyes. Pick 173, Dontavius Russell, defensive tackle, Auburn. And then the Cardinals select Emeka Egbule, linebacker, Houston. The spell check is wrong on the screen. His name is not E-M-E-N-D, it's E-M-E-K-E. Emeka Egbule. Pick 175, Taylor Romer, offensive tackle, San Diego State. Niners select Kendall Sheffield, cornerback, Ohio State. Very fast, very solid in their secondary alongside Damon Arnett. Saints get Benny Snell, running back, Kentucky. I think he's very talented. He had a great year with the Wildcats. Can he replace Mark Ingram? Well, probably won't have the production that Ingram had, but I think he'll be a very nice complement to Alvin Kamara. Jaguars get Jalen Jelks, edge rusher, Oregon, go Ducks. Cardinals get Foster Moreau, tight end, LSU. The Giants select Gary Johnson, linebacker, Texas. Bills get Ben Burr-Kirven, linebacker, Washington. And then the Broncos get Jordan Scarlett, running back, Florida. Bengals get Kari Willis, safety, Michigan State. Lions get Clayton Thorson, quarterback, Northwestern. Very inconsistent at times, but the talent is absolutely there with him, and he can be a really nice backup for Matt Stafford. Packers get Marvell Tell, safety, USC. Falcons get Jacoby Myers, wide receiver, NC State. Panthers get Ryan Finley, quarterback, NC State. They want to get competition for Cam Newton. Yeah, this is the 6th round, but Finley is not 6th round talent. While I'm not high on Finley, I think he's probably a 4th round in talent. Colts. Titans get Derek Thomas, cornerback Baylor. Browns get Jordan Ta'amu, quarterback Ole Miss. I think Ta'amu is very overrated. I don't think he should get drafted. Not saying I dislike the guy on a personal level, but I just don't think he was great at Ole Miss, and he did have 3 really good receivers who have all already been picked. 2 of them are first-round level prospects, and then the Vikings get Lamont Gallard, offensive lineman, Georgia. Ravens get Sheldrick Redwine, safety, Miami. The Steelers get Chris Slayton, D-tackle, Syracuse. Ravens get Donnell Green, offensive tackle, Minnesota. Packers get Evan Worthington, safety, Colorado. Texans get wide receiver Jalen Hurd out of Baylor. The Jets get Kadar Holman, cornerback, Toledo. Eagles get Ryan Bates, offensive tackle, Penn State. Bengals select Isaiah Buggs, edge rusher, Alabama. He can play inside as well as outside of the defensive line. Really solid year at Alabama. His production was missed during the national championship since he did not play due to an injury, and I really like the value that Cincinnati's getting. Pick 199, the infamous Tom Brady selection, is Malik Carney, edge rusher, North Carolina, to the Colts. Chargers get Travis Fulgham, wide receiver, Old Dominion. Chiefs get Hamp Cheevers, what a name, cornerback, Boston College. Saints get Deontay Johnson, wide receiver, Toledo. Rams get Terry Beckner, defensive tackle, Missouri. Lions get Cameron Smith, middle linebacker from USC. Smith had a ton of upside, or a ton of hype, I should say, as a first-round prospect a couple years ago. Sort of fallen off a cliff, but I do like his upside, and I think this is a really nice pick for Detroit, who has not picked a linebacker yet, but does need linebacking help. Patriots get Oli Udoh, offensive tackle, Elon, and then the Redskins get Chase Hansen, linebacker, Utah. Steelers select Hayalte Froholt, guard, Arkansas. The Bucks select Anthony Ratliff-Williams, wide receiver, North Carolina. Vikings get Mike Weber, running back, Ohio State. Him and J.K. Dobbins were a very nice pairing in the Buckeye backfield. The Bengals have 3 of the next 4 picks. They go Lucas Dennis, safety, Boston College, Dexter Williams, running back, Notre Dame, and Ty Summers, linebacker, TCU. I think the most interesting of the 3 is Lucas Dennis. A lot of athletic upside. Didn't really put the pieces together in his collegiate career, but he has a ton of potential for Cincinnati. Niners get Drew Sample, tight end, Washington, and then the Chiefs get Kevin Wilkins, D-tackle, out of Rutgers. Now on to the 7th and final round of this year's NFL Draft. The Bucks select DeMarcus Christmas, D-tackle, Florida State. Chiefs get Isaiah Prince, tackle, Ohio State. The Jets select Jimmy Moreland, cornerback, James Madison. The Raiders select Alexander Madison, running back, Boise State. Lots of production with Boise State, and in the Westlake series, he always killed our defense, so nice pick by them. The Steelers get Keyshawn Johnson, wide receiver, Fresno State. The Houston Texans get Darius West, safety, Kentucky. Browns select Cortez Broughton, D-tackle, Cincinnati. Bears get Delvon Randall, safety, Temple. Pick 223, the Bengals get Bunchy Stallings, offensive lineman, Kentucky. Lions get Deshaun Davis, linebacker, Auburn. And then a pair of Wyoming defensive linemen here who I think have really nice potential. Bills get Carl Granderson, edge rusher, and then the Packers get Uahaina Gaifon, defensive tackle. Both of them are very solid players, and I think they have incredibly good ceilings for the 7th round. I think these would be solid picks in rounds 3 and 4, especially Gaifon, who I'd be very sad if the Packers took him. Jonathan Ledbetter, edge rusher, Georgia, to the Redskins. Bills get Jazz Ferguson, wide receiver, Northwestern State. Lions get Andrew Wingard, safety, Wyoming. And the Falcons get Armon Watts, D-tackle, Arkansas. Saints get Tommy Sweeney, tight end, Boston College. The Giants select Bryce Love, running back, Stanford. This is a very interesting pick. If Love declared for the draft last year, he definitely would have been a 1st or 2nd round pick. However, he stayed. He wasn't as good, and he suffered a pretty bad injury. His knees are quite injury prone, so that makes him a huge risk. However, the Giants are going to take a shot, and in the 7th round, it's absolutely worth it to take someone with his talent. Raheem Binyam, edge rusher, Arkansas State, to the Dolphins. Dolphins also select Derwin Gray, offensive tackle, Maryland. Raiders get Donnie Lewis, cornerback, Tulane. Jaguars get TJ Edwards, linebacker, Wisconsin. Broncos get Austin Bryant, edge rusher, Clemson. Sort of like Love. If Bryant declared, I think he would have been a first-round pick. Now he goes in the 7th round. Of course, Cleveland Ferrell and Christian Wilkins could have declared last year. They stayed this year, but they're both still going to be first-round picks. So Bryant took a huge L. Ulysses Gilbert III, edge rusher, Akron, to the Chicago Bears. Pick 239 is Darwin Thompson, running back, Utah State, to New England. Colts get Gardner Minshew, quarterback, Washington State. So the Colts have Jacoby Brissett, who's one of the best backups in the league. But I wouldn't be surprised if a quarterback-needy team who's in absolute desperate need of a starter goes out and trades for him. So they'll need a new backup, and that could be Mr. Mustache and Gardner Minshew had a really good year with Washington State. Cowboys get Lil Jordan Humphrey, wide receiver, Texas. Solid year. At the end of the year, it seemed like he'd be like a 3rd-round pick, but bad combine. That really made his stock fall off. 242, Wyatt Ray, edge rusher, Boston College, to the Chargers. Patriots get Blace Brown, cornerback, Troy. Saints get Teron Prescott, offensive lineman, NC State. Giants get Montre Hardage, cornerback, Northwestern. And the Patriots get Nick Linder, offensive lineman, Indiana. We're almost done, folks. Just 8 picks to go. Vikings select Trey Lamar, linebacker, Clemson. I've had Lamar going in the 2nd and 3rd round at times. And while I don't love him as a prospect, I think in the 7th round, that's not a bad pick. Cardinals get Clifton Duck, cornerback, Appalachian State. Cardinals also get Sharif Miller, edge rusher, Penn State. Vikings get Olamide Zacchaeus, wide receiver, Virginia. Rams get Travis Homer, running back, Miami. Patriots get O'Shea Dugas, offensive tackle, Louisiana Tech. Redskins get Ken Webster, cornerback, Ole Miss. It seems like Ken Webster's been in college probably for around 40 years by now. I've had him going in the 2nd round at times in previous mocks, probably not even this year, but like in 2018 and even in 2017. He should have declared earlier, but he stayed, and I mean, at least he's getting picked. And then Mr. Irrelevant, the first pick in this draft the Cardinals used on a quarterback, and the last pick in this draft the Cardinals will be using on a quarterback, Easton Stick, out of North Dakota State. He has some solid potential, and I think he's a 4th-round prospect. They're getting themselves a really good backup for Kyler Murray. They have Mike Glennon, who's not great. So Easton Stick will be Mr. Irrelevant in this year's draft class. It seems like the Cardinals always have Mr. Irrelevant, and they have it again this year, so good for them, I guess. That'll do it for the video. 7 rounds. I know it was crazy. Hope you guys enjoyed. I am super excited for the NFL draft this week. Expect my big board to come out on Tuesday, and have a great weekend and a good Easter. Happy Easter, folks. I traded my truth for some robbers. Playing Batman, fat, some robbers.